This state Senate seat is going to decide whether we should just all get into a JetBlue and go to North Carolina, Florida, and Texas, or whether we're going to stay here and build a life for ourselves. It's going to decide whether Jim Zappy should actually continue to build houses in this community. It's going to decide whether the Chicos actually stay in this community and continue to expand, or are forced to either go out of state, move their assets out of state, open up accounts offshore, or whether they're going to stay here in New York. It's going to decide whether Kathy, who left and went out, who sells the homes for Jim Zappy, is going to continue to be able to live here and have a good standard of living. It's going to decide whether, and the Murphys, who came up to Albany, can the Murphys stand up just real quick? They came up to Albany and they met with the Hudson Valley delegation. Now here's some famous names for you. Amy Paulin, Dick Brodsky, George Latimer, Susie Oppenheimer, who walked in her sweatpants, a state senator. And they came up, and I walked in, and I don't get invited to these things. You know, the Hudson Valley delegation gets together, and they don't invite me to come. Because they know if I come, I'm not going to be on their side, I'm not going to play nice, and I'm going to be on the Murphy side. So I walked in there, like the skunk in the picnic, like Jim says, and I could just see Dick Brodsky, the smoke come out of his ears. Susie Oppenheimer was like, oh my God, here he comes. And I sat down and I watched Dick Brodsky lean over the table in the arrogant way that only Dick Brodsky can do. And he looked at Miss Murphy and he said, dare you come into my boardroom? I wouldn't, this is an elected official, folks. He said, dare you come into my boardroom? I wouldn't walk into your boardroom and point my finger at you and have that snide remark. And he went on to be extremely arrogant. And all of his fellow legislators did the same thing. And I was quiet for about 3 minutes. And I said, Dick, and I love calling him by his first name. I said, Dick Brodsky, you just told this woman who drove all the way up to Albany, these people work for a living, they are taking the day off, they're losing profit, they don't know what's going on back home, they come up here to talk to their elected official, she's nearly in tears, they're pleading with you because of the overtaxation, the overregulation, New York's hostile business environment, and you have the you-know-what to tell them that you wouldn't go into their boardroom. All this legislature does every single day is walk into their boardroom and their homes and their bank accounts and take more and more and more. And you know what? They didn't like that. And that means when I ask to co-sponsor a bill or when I'm on the assembly floor, well, they don't invite me to go for golf. They don't invite me to go for drinks. I didn't go to Albany to make friends. I went to Albany to make a difference. And I fight for the people in this room, in this district, every single day. Now that is one very small example. I could tell you stories when I bumped into Sheldon Silver in the elevator and he and I both walk out. And I'm smiling from ear to ear, but he's not very happy. But the point is this, is that when I went to the New York State Legislature, when I knocked on those 12,000 doors, when I ran that campaign for New York State Assembly, my strength was in this room. My strength was in the communities that I represented, and it still is. Yeah. It still is. And the reason why I have been able to do it, because you have to understand, you're looking at the only Republican in the state. 2 years before Joe Bruno's indictment, I asked Joe Bruno, I demanded that Joe Bruno step down. And my mom was proud when she read that in the New York Times, and the vast majority of people said, boy, that boy's stupid. That was the most powerful man in the state. I don't care if he's a Republican, because a crook by any other name is a crook. And that New York State Senate, controlled by Republicans, sold their soul to the special interest groups. And they cut deal after deal, and they ran this state into the ground. And that was a Republican leadership. The same Republican leadership that picked, guess who? Mr. Bozo. Pedro Espada. So the Republicans, when they decided to, this is a Republican talking to you. Have I gone off the reservation? Yes. Because the reservation stinks. And we need independent leadership in this state. And you're seeing in about 5 minutes, in my presentation to you, why I am very dangerous for the entrenched interests in this state. Our Republicans, when they lost the majority, what did they want? The only thing they wanted was to get that majority back. That's all they cared about. It was about power. And what did they do? They cut a deal with the devil himself, Pedro Espada. Well, he's about to be indicted. He stole $13 million from a charity that was supposed to provide health care for inner city people. And that's who the Republicans cut a deal with? And you wonder why we're losing elections in this state as Republicans? Each and every one of us sitting here today, you have ownership in this. I have the distinct honor of being disliked by the insiders on both sides of the aisle. I can promise you, the Republican insiders up in Albany, the Greek, we call him. Many of you may not even know who I'm talking about. His name's Dean Skelos. He is working tooth and nail to make sure that Greg Ball doesn't walk into that New York State Senate. Because they may get their togas out of sort. Because the reality is that once they got that majority up there, what did the Republicans do with Pedro Espada? They fought so hard to get that majority, they cut the deal with the devil. Did they pass comprehensive school tax reform? No. Did they pass term limits? No. Did they change the redistricting process? Did they free school taxes for seniors? Did they pass 287G to deport criminal illegal aliens in the state of New York? No, 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 and no. But what did they do? They cut a deal so their staffing allotment would go up by $8 million, and they hired 160 new employees, and they got all their old offices back because it wasn't about doing the right thing, it was about power. Yeah. Now folks, you can do one of two things tonight. You can either say that Greg Ball's a nut, you can say that Greg Ball is dangerous, you can say, you know what, that Greg Ball, he's a loose cannon, or you can say that we know when Greg Ball shows up in that New York State Senate, he may not be liked, but he's going to be the most energetic, forceful, and independent voice that that legislature has ever seen. And if you know that in your heart, I need you as my foot soldier. If you know that in the fiber of your being, after seeing me get attacked for 4 years by both sides of the aisle, if you know that, I need you by my side for the next 4 months. Because we're going to be fighting both the Democratic entrenched interests and the Republican entrenched interests. But I have a game plan. We've done it before. The first one, we took out an incumbent and we won with 72% of the vote. The second one, we took on an intense smear campaign that spent nearly $1 million. We won that one with 75% of the vote. We have never been better situated than we are right now. And the more people that get into this primary for state senate, the better that we are. Okay? But this state senate election will decide a few things, and Dick Morris laid it out, but I want to make it crystal clear. If we lose this seat, we will not get back the majority. If we do not get back the majority in the state of New York, every single Republican or Republican-leaning congressional district will be etched out. And the state senate will go from having over 30 Republican seats, probably to having 12. So all the issues, who cares about the Second Amendment? Raise your hand. Who would like to see school taxes frozen for seniors? Who cares about creating a more hospitable business environment to create jobs? Who would like to see comprehensive school tax reform? Wipe those out if we lose this seat. Repeal the MTA. The Democrat who's running for this seat, I'm going to tell you right now, and I need you to listen very clearly. The Democratic candidate in this seat is a tricky dude. And he will tell you exactly what you want to hear. He has run against candidates and he destroyed them. And he did that with misinformation and outright lies. Recently, this candidate showed up at a press conference in front of my office and said that I spent $38,000 on mail. My entire mail budget is like $33,000. But facts didn't matter. And there were local papers and even other that ran with the story, actually saying, did Greg Ball commit fraud? If he can get that kind of story, and the difference between a $38,000 budget and several $100s is what the real story was. If he can get that kind of headline, because he's that good, he's going to do it again and again and again. Ladies and gentlemen, we're in a knife fight. We are going to be victorious. It's going to require you standing by my side and taking on our own party in a primary and winning with a big number and then going on to victory in November. But it's not only about Greg Ball. I stand on your shoulders. I will stand in front of that camera on News 12. I will go to the editorial board interviews. I will go door to door. I'll be the most energetic, aggressive candidate you've ever had. But I simply cannot accomplish this without your support. So I'm eternally grateful. I thank you very, very much. And let's win. Jim, wake up.